Hi there. So I've done a little bit more on this drawing, and I wanted to come back and give you part two. And it's not quite as magical as I'm sure that I'm intended to make it. But I wanted to point out that like these are super easy for me to do. I'm just clicking, instead of using the rectangle, this is even easier. I'd forgotten about this. So I make this basic shape. Then I come to the direct select and I click that point and it allows me to just curve it in a little bit. Now again, we're not trying to make this an exact replica. So as long as it fulfills the sense of space. And I've done this shape down here as well, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to do front minus back so that we've trimmed that. And we're still going to have a little bit here to trim. Sometimes you can't make it perfect all in one fell swoop. So we're going to zoom in here and we're going to come in and we're just going to trim this. And again, remember it's front minus back. So that was my last shape. And so I click this and I'm going to do front minus back. And we can fix that edge later. Same thing up here. We're just missing a few pieces. We're going to come in and trim that piece off of there. And again, I don't have to have this filled, as you can see. And I'm going to hit shift and I'm going to do front minus back. So now that we have that done, and I'm not going to get all of these shapes in for you, but I've gotten a couple of them in. I'm going to grab these guys, these three guys, and then I'm also going to grab this circle. And I'm going to come down here and do a combination. And the reason why I'm doing that is if you notice that all of those shapes have this this outline, and so one of the things that I want to do is I want to select a color for that outline. So I'm going to come up here and get one of these darker grays. Whoops. Since that's there, I'm going to go ahead and drop it in. One of the things you can do is if you select a color, I can drop it in here on my swatch. Just like I could select that orange color, let's go ahead and select that, and we'll drop that into our swatch. So this is my outline and this is my fill color. And now I can come in and select that, and I can come down and select the fill and just select that color and decide how thick it needs to be. We're going to go for 2 points and see what we think. That's probably too big. We're going to go for 1.5. And that might still be, I guess we'll stick with 1 for the time being. I don't think we were seeing it fully. So that's really simple. Again, I'm just selecting those shapes and holding down shift at the same time. So I'm selecting, I've grabbed this one. If I hold down shift, I'm now grabbing this big shape. And if I'm still holding down shift again, I'm grabbing that, and I can combine all of those together. And then I can come in with my outline and give it that stroke. So that's really easy. And now that I have this drawn, I can come in and tweak it a little bit. This isn't quite where I want it to be. So I'm going to pull that in. Sometimes it's best to kind of lay the foundation and then come back in and tweak it a little bit. And then we can flip it. Oops, we can flip it here. Let's actually grab that same orange. And then that already has that outline. All right, so the next thing that I wanted to show you is now that I have like some shapes in place, let's make that the same orange. I actually like this orange a little bit better, so I'm going to drag that in here and make all of these this lighter orange. I just think it represents better. So we'll give this that same outline. All right, so the next thing I want to do is we made this shape behind him, and you can see we have some tweaks that we're already going to be in the process of needing to make. But this shape is kind of something that we need to deal with. He has a little bit of darkness and a center that is kind of a glow. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the stroke, number one. And number two, we're going to come over here and select a kind of darker gray from his edge. And you can see that he went darker gray. I'm going to come up to the black arrow and unclick. That's really, really important when doing mesh gradient. And then I'm going to come in here to stark white, and then I'm just going to drop in my mesh gradient to give him that sense of roundedness. And then I'm going to come in with this guy, and I'm going to do, let's see if I have everything blocked. I do. I'm going to do a drag select, and I'm going to make this just a little bit darker so that he feels more grounded. I'm going to do a little bit more. And then I'm actually going to come in, I'm going to deselect. I want the lighter color to come up a little bit further, so I'm going to come in and get my white again, and I'm going to come down to my mesh gradient, and I'm going to come up here and give a little bit more lightness. So he has kind of more of a rounded feeling. And then we have his hat, which also has kind of a lightness here and a darkness here. So what we're going to do is, because we've already started with some color palettes that are working for us, we're going to grab that, and then we're going to do a color grab right there. That's a little dark. And then we're just going to come in and we are going to grab white again. And we're going to come over here to our mesh gradient and just drop a little bit of lightness there. And that's going to give us a sense that he's rounded. We don't really necessarily see it, we don't really necessarily see it heavily in here, but it's there. And if we didn't have it, he wouldn't feel dimensional. Last thing that I'm going to do for his helmet is we have these little guys up here. These are super easy, and we're going to keep them on this layer as well, just because they're not hard. We're going to select this color, and I'm just going to come in with a stroke, and I'm going to make that stroke have a thickness. And where's my stroke palette? Stroke palette. There it is. So I'm going to come in here and say I want a 5-point stroke. A little heavy. I'm going to do a 3-point. And then what's nice about this is that I can round that end. So I'm going to click and round that end. So if I drag that away, you can see that the end is dragged or rounded. So I can do the same thing, since this has the color. I can do an option drag here, and I'll rotate it a little bit, and then I will elongate it. And then we have both of those in place. Now, last thing, I want this to be on top of these, and since we drew these last, they're on top. So I'm going to go to Object, and I know you can't see Object up there, Arrange, Bring to Front. And there we have it. I am going to stop there and continue on the next time you see this. All of these guys will be in place, and I will start line work and talk about that. He's actually a really easy draw. He only has complications up here in terms of our drawing. So, all right, thanks.